Hey guys, this is Pilleater, and I'm here talking again with the Adventure Kid. Hey, Adventure Kid.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? So we were talking about,
Nothing really. I've been watching some anime.
yeah, um, I've been busy with other things. I just got Pyramid Arcade by Andy Looney. We had him on the Stark Truth program, and I'm gonna check out his games. He's a really interesting designer. But we were talking earlier or sending emails about bodybuilding, weightlifting, men going their own way, and Manosphere topics like that. And I thought maybe we'd discuss about that for an hour.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, so you were talking about bodybuilding and weightlifting and what my opinion on it. I mean, Adventure Kid, how often do you weightlift?
Let's see. Once a day.
Well, I've been sick, so recently my sickness is overcoming, but you're right. It's good to have a once a day body lifting thing. I mean, my dad has the whole weight set in the garage, and so I just work from there. And I know, like, I've been lifting like I think 50 pounds, 25 on each side. I'm not that. I don't know. I'm doing my math wrong. I'm not so sure if that's right. But I do the bench presses for a bit, the some of the dumbbells up and down, and then I'll do some cardio and lose some weight. But I'll probably get back to it into it once it stops getting really cold because the garage is really cold at the moment, and we have the weight set in there. It's just it's nice once you have access to it, but to be honest, most kids don't even have access to a gym or weightlifting, and most of them might have video game systems and they sit down, they just do whatever. But it's awesome if you have access and go to the gym.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think about Jack Donovan? I liked him. He talks about masculinity a lot, and he seems like he could be like a figure. I mean, like he can be an idol to the alt left.
Yeah, that's in an alt left play. Have you read Androphile? That his first book. I love that one a lot.
Yeah, I never read his books. I just read his columns on like Countercurrent.
Yeah, like I have Way of Men, Sky of Eagles, Androphile, a lot majority of his books, and I've been reading him since I was like 19. But I love Androphile because that's a very cutting edge book about how the gay identity is pretty much dead, and that like that's because like if you're gay, you don't have to be this like left wing fool or this flamboyant flamingo that goes around with the color rainbow. In fact, you could just be a normal guy that has preference towards other men. It just seems like that's obviously nowhere. That's almost the same as we were talking about before. James O'Mara's talk about the manner bun in his book, The Homo and the Negro.
Yeah, I always wondered, is James J. O'Mara, is he like 100% gay or is he bisexual?
I don't know. I mean, the current talk and gossip is supposedly he is gay, but then again, who really knows? I mean, he does reference Bridget Bratt as a hero of his in his book in Eldester Clark. Bridget Bratt was, I think it was Tranny who was in the band God's Girlfriend, which was this avant-garde noise group. I don't know if James ever knew Bridget Bratt, but he seems to be a fan of him. And Aldister Clark was this openly gay English New Right guy who unfortunately died early on. And I'm hopefully maybe James was a fan of his blog or even met the guy in person. But there's a lot of underground influences if you think about those things. And I think Jack Donovan's Androphile is definitely a good book to it's a nice way to show your gay friends that there's more to being, that there's more than this stupid have a gay accent and talk about things.
Oh, yeah. You know, I want to tell you about a funny incident that happened like this week.
Okay.
I tried to call Nina Hartley, and she basically just hung up on me, but it was hilarious.
Nina's the porn actress, right?
Yeah. I always thought about like fucking her one day. That'd be nice.
That's if only she's too little too famous. I don't know how much she charges if she's still into prostitution. I think she's older now.
Wait, she used to do prostitution?
No, I'm just saying if she was like I don't know how much she charges per hour. What, $1,000 per hour? I mean, she is kind of famous. It's not like a normal prostitute you can afford.
Wait, have you ever been with a prostitute?
I have friends who were very promiscuous. I knew this one girl, Miss Havarti, and she was a friend I knew in like middle and high school, and she's all into the whole like upload her porn onto like X videos and porn outlets like that. And she's still a friend, but I'm not. We had our relationship, but I kind of keep my distance from her. But there are strange other peoples I know who are into the porn or into some promiscuous sex thing, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, did you check out the video about Adult Swim I told you about?
Um, yes, I did. I briefly looked into that, and I thought it was interesting, and I was watching it before bed, like I always do with some videos I have on. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I told you his work is pretty good.
Oh yeah, 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 definitely. He's definitely commentary on things you have to. I mean, it's a very current trend on YouTube now to like literally talk about things and have an audience connection or at least have some personal opinion input on it. Yeah, yeah, I can totally understand where any YouTuber goes in commentary of that.
What do you think about the cartoons and Cartoon Network right now? Like the Adventures of Gumball.
It's funny. I had my TV on earlier today, and I was just thinking about that. We were talking about cartoons on the last show we had, and Steven Universe was on, and I've never seen an episode at all of Steven Universe. I'm more aficionado of Star, and yet Steven Universe is all over Tumblr, and it's this big thing. And I actually saw a glimpse of Steven Universe today, and what I got from it was this strange, like, I'm not a fan of the art design of the show. I think all the girls are like fat and they have huge lips, and I can't stand looking at their like dick sucking duck lips all the time. But I don't know. I really don't know what to say about Steven Universe. And as for Adventure of Gumball, I never really was into that too, but it reminds me of another show, Pickle and Peanuts, which is on Disney. It seems that Pickles and Peanuts and Adventure of Gumball tend to use this very huge artsy medium where it's not just 2D animation. They'll use like stop motion or they'll use like clay animate, stop motion CGI, and they'll just mix it together. And they think they want to be as artsy as possible. And they're doing a I know John R. Dilworth on the Stark Truth said he actually likes the Gumball show. I think it's interesting they use these mediums, but it's a little too artsy and pretentious.
Oh yeah, I like Pickle and Peanut. It has like this dark vibe to it, and it's really surreal. And there's a couple of skits things that make me laugh when I watch it.
I know what you're saying. I mean, I'm not really into the show, but it'll be very schizophrenic. I mean, the show I really like right now is Two More Eggs, or by the Chap brothers, who once did Homestar Runner. I get very nostalgic watching Two More Eggs, even though how short it is. I really tend to enjoy that because I still find the vibe of Runner into that. Even their jokingly CGI pals is a very funny vaporwave esque show. I don't know. It's just a skit within a skit, kind of like World Peace to Million Dollar Extreme on Adult Swim. Yeah, I mean these cartoon shows are getting more abstract and artsy. Though I think there should be some integrity or otherwise they're just artsy shorts. And so I don't know where the next big cartoon is, but right now it just seems to be a mix of whatever mediums.
Oh yeah, I like Adult Swim. They have like some good shows. Like they have Robot Chicken. That's pretty funny. And
Yeah, Robot Chickens and I like the Les Claypool introduction, and Seth Green is he's kind of old and outdated now, but still. I mean, yeah. Other than watching Steven Universe and Gumball earlier today, I mean, I haven't really been reading any manga or anime recently. I know if you watched anime. What have you watched? What's your favorite animes recently, or what you have been doing?
Wow, what's my favorite anime? Let's see. Well, there's this new show. I haven't really watched it yet called Maria the Virgin Witch.
Mm. Rhea the Virgin Witch. What's that? Netflix?
It's a show. It's you can buy it from like Funimation. They the ones who distribute the DVDs.
Yeah. I'm watching it like right now. Yeah, it's very of What's it actually about? Is it older or newer? It's made today, right?
It's new. I think it's like some fantasy anime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm watching it. I'm looking at it right now. Some of the pictures. Yeah, Kondasha makes it and or publish it, and then there was the Funimation. And anything it seems like Funimation is our biggest English to. They choose the animes and gives it to us. It's kind of like Dragon Ball Z. That was kind of Funimation's big English dubbing one. I mean, I can't really say what are my favorite Funimations. I really don't pay attention to Funimation at all, but I will say that I do like their work they did to Initial D. I think that's very important. It has Brat Sinclair's music in there, and I do like their chance they took on Princess Jellyfish. I really love Kuragahime, and that's something interesting they picked up.
Yeah, have you heard of an author called Peter Morosi? I mean,
Peter
Morosi. Yeah, he's the author who did this book about classic fine dining and architecture.
Peter Morosi. Um, no, it's not ringing a bell at all.
Yeah, well, if you're a fan of like, because I've been on the Robert Stark podcast and you guys are like fans of architecture and stuff like that. Well, if you're a fan of old school architecture or classic dining, you should check out his book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's funny you point that out because Robert loves the whole architect stuff. I mean, I'm not an architect, but I know what you're talking about, and you could definitely go into the different aesthetics of building wise. Where exactly are you, and what architect do you see average in your place you are?
Well, I'm in Walls, Mississippi, so I'm out in the country.
Oh, okay,
So
it's
I
somewhere
typically either see
Mississippi.
like suburban houses or farmhouses.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've never really been to Mississippi. I mean, mostly I've discussed this before with Robert. Philadelphia is a known city, certainly like this the Liberty Bell and what do they say, cheesesteaks. It's a very dirty city, rocky. It's definitely an old American city, yet it has its ups and downs. Philadelphia. I don't know really how to describe it. We had a talk with Dan DiArgenio, who was the Netrunner champion, and he's another Philadelphia native, and he sees that vaporwave and maybe cyberpunk aesthetic through the city, which is really hard to see. I don't know. Maybe I'd call it the Liberty Sprawl if it had its cyberpunk name. But yeah, you can get very interested in cities and talking about where their places are.
Oh yeah, I read your blog and it's pretty entertaining, but it seems to me that you don't seem to like women that are like curvaceous. You like your women to be kind of flat.
Were you reading my some of my summer notes I did in 2016? I just uploaded on the Mia Manaya blog spot. They're just like really raw, like typewriter notes. I just upload them on there. You're talking about them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's funny. And you're talking. Was there a particular piece that you thought was interesting?
yeah. You were like, I think it was like one part of the blog where you were talking about girls with like double D cups or something, and I think you said they weren't all that.
It's very interesting when you start meditating. I probably would have said something like that. I mean, my ideal was that, mm, if you probably source it again, I do like to make fun of women who are like A cup, D cup, whatever. I mean, it's certainly a joke that really hits a raw nerve when you talk to any girl because, believe it or not, like as much as we talk about our penis size and dick size, girls think of themselves as tit or boob size, and then if you say, "Oh, you're flat chest," they get really like upset with that. You know, compared to big breasts. I think my opinion on that would be like, a lot of Asian girls, they don't have like big like Roman tits that like flag around. They're just mostly flat chest, and like that's a different beauty in itself. And it's not like, I mean, certainly if you're into like tick fucking, I understand that you want like boobs or something, but it's like I don't know. There certainly is a tit fascination in the Western, in our Western, even outside too. It could mean anywhere, but I don't see that. It doesn't mean everything. I mean, sexuality is certainly different. I don't really have the final say on that.
Well, I'm more of an ass man.
I I know it. There was this cute black girl. I remember she really liked me in elementary school or something, and this one black friend was like teasing me in the locker room, and he said to me, "Yo, Pilleater, do you like tits or ass?" I'm like, "Why?" This one girl who really likes she's got a nice ass. She wants to go on a date with you. I'm like, "Really?" And yeah, she did have a nice ass, but it's not. I think we were flirty, but nothing really happened. It was still just like an awkward, one of those typical like middle school little kid things. I don't know. It was funny though.
Oh yeah, how are you like growing up? Because the only way I could describe my life growing up is I was kind of like a nerd who could kick somebody's ass, which is how Steve Anthony from Big Black described himself.
Um, you know, my life story is interesting, and I have yet to write about it. I mean, I tried putting some hints over at my blog spot, but I think I would describe it in a way like in the high school level was pretty normal. I mean, especially in the public school level and that urban Pencil Philadelphia, whatever you call it. A lot of ghetto stuff happening, a lot of petty drama. It was very, violent, but at the same time, everyone self-segregates based on race. I've been to many different high schools, I will say that. And I've had experiences with different students and people of all types. And I almost dropped out of high school, but I was willing to survive through the dredges of high school. And I got through and I got into college and I recently graduated from college. And there are certainly important moments in my high school life which kind of determines my outlook. Especially I was into the avant-garde arts when I was 15 or 16. I was a chiptune act. I had a Game Boy and I would go in the inner city and have concert shows with my Game Boy. It was something radical when I was doing it. I was 16. I was watching Universe earlier today, and they have this like Onion kid, this young, sexy-looking Asian white kid who's into like Game Boy chiptune DJing music. That's totally something of the 2000s era, and now it's like watered down. But I would say I was associated with that like twee Game Boy chiptune culture that didn't last in the late zeros. I was like really young, 16. I even had a 7-inch too with some of the LSDJ Nanoloop music that I made. But everyone grows up, and I put that past behind, even though I still do music. I mean, other things happen too. Everyone encounters sexuality, but that requires a podcast of its own. I really can't say my whole life story, but I will say that it was very challenging, my life growing up, and it was very of different things. It wasn't average, but it certainly was very eccentric and still is somewhat eccentric. And what I really just want now is I'm trying to transition into hopefully I can become a dad with a good wife and have 3 kids and with a good job. That's really what I want. I think that's like any healthy ideal you should aim for.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think like that.
yeah.
But that's just me.
I was watching like a Dave Chappelle sketch earlier, or was it yesterday? I don't remember, but it was hilarious. He was
Which
talking
one?
about he was talking about how his limo driver took him to the hood one time. He said he could just tell it was in the hood because he saw a baby standing outside, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Ah, yeah. I think I remember that one. I mean, I can only say the most famous Dave Chappelle skit was the James Brown bitch, or I'll sit on your sofa, where he makes pancakes for him. That was kind of a big joke when it first.
Oh, yeah, Rick James. That was a funny one where he kept on fighting Charlie Murphy. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, Dave Chappelle. I mean, he's what was the thing when his show was getting so popular? He basically ran away to Africa and basically thought he was making fun of black people or being critical of it, and then basically the white audiences were loving the Chappelle show more often. Something like that in the Dave Chappelle conflict or political conflict.
Yeah, I mean, he thought that people weren't really paying attention to the message.
Hmm.
Like they didn't really see past the satire, and that they weren't supposed to take it seriously.
But it's almost real too, and that's why I think it's funny because people looked at the Dave Chappelle show in a different light, where it kind of benefited more of the white audience to be, I guess, racist towards black people, or at least kind of backfired. I don't know, and I think that's might have been appeal to the Chappelle show, though I've only seen like a couple episodes of it, but I know it's funny. It's like I love
Yeah,
when he I
there
love
was this one episode that was funny where Dave Chappelle he was this crackhead and he was talking to the kids at the audience to avoid drugs. He was basically advocating for drugs, telling them
yes.
drugs are around you everywhere, kids. What do you sniff that marker right there? What do you think's gonna happen? You'll get high from it.
It
Just
was
take the cap out and sniff it.
It's Tron, I think the rapper is his drug dealer name, right? It was Tron or something.
Oh
Or,
yeah, there was a sketch where like it was hilarious where black people got like $1 trillion from the U.S. government in reparations, and there was like all these stereotypes, like KFC became the most powerful company in the world, and Sprint deals were getting paid.
I love the one episode where he's Little John, but he pretends Little John has a white person complex, and he talks very sophisticated but then he goes yeah when he's not. I don't know. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, there's a lot of inner themes in the Chappelle show, which is about Black America, but also about. Oh no, I think it was. Yeah. I'm thinking of one skit right now. Good Morning Black America. Everyone wakes up at 12 noon. No one really wakes up properly in the morning or something. Or there was the white family called the niggers or something like that.
Yeah, the nigger family, that was hilarious.
Yeah. It's exactly. He's like talking about race in a strange way, but it was able for. I don't know why he basically ran away from it, but it definitely was successful in its 2 season run. Yeah, it is a funny show when you think about it. But yeah, I mean, the only comedy shows I've been recently watching were Sam Hyde's World Peace, which was on Adult Swim for about 6 episodes, which was really funny. And then I really don't know what's funny now. I mean, internet jokes are certainly funny, and people get their humor now on the internet. But I don't know what I find funny at the moment.
Well, I find, dang, I like American Dad. That's hilarious.
American Dad, Family Guy, Cleveland Show. I like the Cleveland Show for some reason. I like Tim the Bear and oh yeah. Yeah, more Adult Swim shows. Yeah, there's also Bob's Burgers, and I can't believe they're still making new episodes of Simpsons. Um,
Yeah, I think they should just end that show. Come on, man. You haven't been relevant since 1992.
or not even more like 2000 or 2002 they stopped being relevant when Family Guy
Mhm.
kicked in. There was a joke on Futurama when Fry doesn't go to the future, but then if he continues his life after 99, his favorite new show is Family Guy, which is this ironic. Even South Park would joke upon it, where I think Cartman or Kyle are fighting at the Fox Studios or something like that, and it's the episode where they show Muhammad, and there's a lonely Simpson that has no place, and the lonely King of the Hill Studios, which has no purpose, and yet now South Park is kind of dead. It's irrelevant too, and all these shows are being I don't know. They were things of the past that helped stabilize the sitcom cartoon show, And now none of it exists, but yet they still exist as tradition, like episodes of Sesame Street being published out one episode after the other.
Yeah, let me just say something about King of the Hill. You know, I don't think people gave King of the Hill enough love. I mean, it was an underrated show. It was a show that directly appealed to like middle class Americans, and unlike some other adult shows, it wasn't raunchy. It was realistic. You know, and
Yeah,
the adults were responsible.
I like Mike Judge is funny, and it's often debated whether he was making fun of conservatives or showing it the way it was. I know he probably comes from a liberal background. He's basically using the typical, him being the creator of Beavis and Butthead. He's almost joking. This is how quote unquote dumb conservative America is. But yet it has a reverse effect on it, and it basically works against that, making people pro Hank Hill the same way if you watch the Chappelle show, you'll be pro making fun of black people. The way there's a subversive element to King where Hank becomes everybody wants to be Hank Hill and everybody wants to go whoa and everybody wants to have this jokingly, he is a lame character, Hank, yet he's good at being lame, even lamer than Napoleon Dynamite lame. And I think King of the Hill has developed a following of people who prefer this funny, bizarre, dry humor lameness. Though I still don't get the show. I think it's just a very weird. He's trying to be critical judge, but it turns out to be benefiting the other side.
Yeah, I like Beavis and Butthead. That show is hilarious. You know, you basically had a bunch of irresponsible idiots just destroying stuff.
Or like it's the ideal too, where they criticize music videos and they basically like Mystery Science Theater 3000. They watch cool music videos and then they'll and it's actually the videos are really cool too. And you get Beavis and Butthead's attempt where both the music and art forms together. I think that's a really interesting spectacle when we start watching the text itself. I think it is funny.
Yeah, and you can tell that the character's opinion of some of the bands were based on Mike Judge's opinions. Like, for example, Winger, which was a hair metal band, Beavis and Butthead said they sucked. While when they looked at a Henry Rollins video, they said he was cool and badass.
Huh. I remember there was one episode where they didn't give out the music video title because they bashed it so much. I think I should look that one up online, but they were bashing this one
I think it
song.
was Milli Vanilli, who were just terrible.
Yeah, and then they just didn't give out the title, and the audience had to know who they were before because they didn't even want to give credit to it. And it seems like they'll give the show credit, the video's credit, if it's actually integrally good. But I don't know if there's a conspiracy behind that. But yeah, I mean, some of those.
There's not a conspiracy. It's just that Mike Judge is biased and he doesn't like certain music. If you're hair metal, he's going to say you suck. If you're alternative metal, like Tool or Helmet or Henry Rollins, he'll like your music.
That's probably true. I mean, also Mike Judge did Diary, or I haven't seen an episode of that in ever. The girl with the brown hair. And
Well,
glasses.
he wasn't really like personally involved in that. MTV pretty much took over that. I mean, Mike Judge said he wasn't really aware of that they made a show out of Daria.
And yet she's in Beavis and Butthead there. And it's kind of this universe where they all exist in this whole like Midwest coming to age teen. And the same thing we were talking about, this whole undergrads and teenage life cartoon shows, which were really up and coming in the mid 90s and late 90s. It's not a thing anymore, but still it was it had its time and it was funny and interesting while it lasted. There was, I think music videos have been dying down. It's now become internet exclusive. I mean, MTV is really now just a kind of a teeny bopper or some kind of.
It's like Captain Christian said. He said that Adult Swim is the new MTV, and when you think about it, Adult Swim has kind of took the mantle from MTV.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely. It took the traditions of MTV, and now it's just outsourced by a different network. The Ted Turner Network or Cartoon Network now has it later at night. They use the same visual graphics. It's a different demographic, and yeah, definitely. You can see that their music they play is like vaporwave and like up and coming electronic music genres. Back then on MTV, if you played like drum and bass or some like weird house or digital hardcore record, it was pretty cool. But music and culture, youth culture constantly changes, and it's really hard to pinpoint how can you make young kids or kids be influenced, to watch on their TV. And that is a very interesting
Oh,
thing when you
there's
think about
something I
culture.
would like to talk to you about. There's this internet commentator, Movie Bob. I hate his politics, but when he reviews like movies and stuff, he makes a lot of sense. Anyway, what he said about the '90s is that the '90s really didn't have an identity.
Why is
And
that?
I think that kind of corresponds with why you say that all of those cartoons that are pretty much in decline, were narcissistic. Yeah. Anyway, what he said was that the '50s, '60s, '70s, and '80s had an identity, but it really felt that the '90s really didn't have an identity.
Yeah. I know in racial terms, I know what you're talking about. Starting in the 50s, you had the white America golden years. The 60s were the baby boomer hippies. 70s had this post effect where things were being gradually changed. I think the 80s were super like damaging, especially this Reaganomics, quote unquote, the word postmodern and deconstruction becomes academically superior and elite. Things become relevant. And then you're right, in the 90s, it's the end of the world, Francis Fukuyama thing where nobody cares about anything anymore. And I think the ultimate wake up call was 9/11, September 11th, our interest in working with Israel, knowing that there was a Jewish class and that this isn't just some fairy tale land of utopianism. But you're right, the 90s definitely was in this gaga land that, in that sense, I think, if I'm getting this right.
He was kind of right, because if you look at all the popular trends in the '90s, Quentin Tarantino made movies that were basically, a throwback to old gangster movies
Yes.
like The Godfather and stuff, and not to mention that Pulp Fiction takes place in the '70s. Scream music made a comeback in the '90s for some weird reason.
Yeah, I'm
Nobody's
thinking
really sure.
Stereolab, which is this French alternative band. They often did like pop music relevant of the 60s, but in the 90s alternative rock format. I can totally understand that. I mean, today, what's popular? 80s music. Isn't that funny? It seems to me that whenever we exist today, hip music is 30 years ago. So vaporwave, which is popular today, is just the 80s aesthetic. Just slow down our Italio disco. And before you know it, give it 10 years, maybe you'll see a grunge come back, or maybe the MySpace music of the Zeros, or some kind of old drum and
Well,
bass.
let me just say something about that. That kind of stuff is already happening. I don't know if you heard about the whole '90s kids phenomenon,
Oh, yeah.
where basically these kids who were babies during the '90s basically reminisce about it. And then you have the whole Nickelodeon.
Yeah. The splat.
They doing this whole thing where they're basically showing shows from the '90s, like Clarissa, Explains It All, Keenan and Kel,
Yep.
Hey Arnold, and all that, and they're trying to cash on nostalgia.
Now, here's the interesting part about that. It appears they air it at 11 or like 1 or 3 in the morning because they realize millennials are up at night doing decadent things like finding girls on Twitter, going to decadent bars, and then they'll play Hey Arnold, a kid show that should have been on at like 7 o'clock in the morning, is on at 2 in the morning when who knows what goes on when when the moon rises. It's this strange thing, the splat, they call it. And it does creep me out in the fact that they're trying to control our lives, and it's not that everything. I mean, at college they had a '90s night, right? What's that? It's this. Before you know it, they'll have a 2000s or zeros night. I don't know what those fashions indicate, but it's once we accumulate knowledge, we start to define what these things are, and it's definitely scary that it has control over our lives and that some influence to that.
Yeah, because you got a lot of rappers today. A lot of rappers today. They trying to rap like the '90s and stuff like that, and there's a lot of nostalgia towards it. You got a lot of people who are nostalgic about grunge and nostalgic about '90s R&B, like Boyz II Men, Bobby Brown, and all that.
New Jack Swing. I love New Jack Swing too. It's something I can't get a hold of. Like Guy, I love Guy with Teddy Riley. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I like Bobby Brown. My favorite song by Bobby Brown was On Our Own, which is, the theme song to Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, yeah, Bobby Brown and New Edition. Yeah, they're cool too. I mean, I love cheesy like New Jack Swing records on that. Some of the boy bands too are pretty funny. But yeah, there's certainly people are not. The now seems to be too scary, and people want to live the past. But the two of them are being we're meeting two worlds, right? We have this internet social app world where like this Tinder thing, everything is on the computer versus the world we knew when we were growing up as little kids and we're just socially confused what matters. And this is an important time where red pilling can occur and the presidency of Donald Trump and all this stuff going down like the alt-right. It's definitely changing people's minds and waking them up to bigger things than materialistic nihilism. And I think our generation has a lot of growing up to do. Especially they got to leave their kiddie stuff behind and become adults and raise children and get professional jobs or at least work for something that's meaningful and put aside their kiddie behavior. And I think that's hopefully will happen given another 10 years, but I don't know. For every 10 years, there'll always be a new generation coming in. And when people get into positions of power, they write history, and it's up to them.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just like a famous person said. I forgot his name, but he said that you never realize the past is happening when it's happening right in front of your eyes. Like when people were living in the 70s, they didn't know it was the 70s. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like they didn't know disco was going to come around. They didn't know punk rock was going to come around. They didn't know that Nixon was going to be indicted for
Yeah.
Watergate. They were living in the now. There was no way they could just look into the future and know any of that stuff.
I know. Yeah, definitely. It's weird to think. I mean, I'm a musician myself. I love like old school Chicago house music. And if you think about house, the Chicago house, that was pretty much just post disco, right? When disco was like shamed and basically they just went underground disco and it was very drum machine, synthesizer based. And now today everything is electronic music. But like that old school electronic music it's now historical now. And I think people are waking up to that fact that like old school Chicago house is meaningful because it was like electronic music during that era. Yet I don't know. It's certainly strange because what we consider classical and what we consider not is pretty much up to our own zeitgeist, and it certainly have a lot of changing to do. And theory, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, it's history is a very interesting thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think you should go to this website. It's called Center for a Stateless Society, and you'll
Yeah.
understand, the whole left-wing market anarchism thing. They got a really good article.
Yeah, I remember Center for a Stateless Society. I remember reading that when I was like in my late teens. I have C4SS.org. That's like right next to Attack the System too of Keith Preston. He'll often
That's funny because I was talking to Keith Preston earlier today. He was a pretty cool guy.
interesting. What's he say? What did he say?
But we just had like an hour-long conversation. We were talking about like politics and stuff, and
Was this
how
on
he
the
grew up.
phone?
And
Was this on the podcast or was it on the phone
no,
or
it was like a podcast. We were just having a personal conversation about stuff.
okay. Interesting. And just I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting to talk about. I know Preston is really good. I have his book I recently got, The Failures of Anarchism. I think that's a wonderful book, especially growing up when I was 15, reading Crime Thinks books about, do whatever you want. Keith Preston's book is so critical and so on the point. You have to reconsider the whole anarchist. It's almost like, is Keith Preston alt anarchy? We have alt left, alt right. Is Preston alt anarchy? And you have to think about that. But yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, well, anyway, he was like a really, really cool guy and everything.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. I mean, he often goes to the H.L. Mencken Club in Baltimore, and I never met the guy, but he knows a lot, certainly. Yeah.
Man, you gotta. Oh yeah, like I said, you should look up Peter Morrissey. He's a pretty good author.
I will. I mean, whatchamacallit. Is there anything else we should cover? I think we got a lot of cover down for a bit.
sure, we can cover something else like oh yeah, I don't know if you watch like C-SPAN or anything, but I was watching like when they were confirming Rex Tillerson, and he came off as being a pretty intelligent guy, even though he really doesn't have any government experience.
Who's that? Which guy on C-SPAN?
You say what?
What guy on C-SPAN you're talking about? Ugh.
Rex Tillerson, the guy who's
Oh.
supposed to be our next Secretary of State.
Oh, okay. And he's talking. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm a geek and I have NHK World on all the time. So I know RT News Russian Today is kind of everyone's favorite. I am so like, I'll put on like CISA. I mean, the Paul Ryan town hall was on yesterday. I found that interesting, but like, I'm so fuddy duddy. I love NHK World and some of the Chinese news. It's just something of habit. It's just, I don't know. I love the Asian culture perspective, especially from the Japanese on their news, and they're like so unapologetic about things. I don't know. It seems like on C-SPAN or whatever, it's always crazy Western things going on. But
Hey,
yeah.
oh, you ever read about the Beatniks?
Um,
They were an interesting bunch.
they
William S.
are.
Burroughs was probably like the craziest out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Bros is crazy. Uncle's Rumpus's Room and just about child rape and mumwumps and heroin. He was doing the whole pedophile porn stuff. Disgusting, he does this in 49, right?
Burroughs was a real life pedophile, by the way.
I'm pretty sure he was. And here's the disgusting part. The disgusting part is he's taught in academia as this grand god of some sort. And when you realize how avant-garde he is, you have to ask yourself, okay, then why can't I write child porn in my creative writing fiction class or like shooting junk? It seems to me that he's supposedly above it all and he's above criticism, the way Jews are when you can't call them, when Jews call you anti-Semitic for criticizing Jews. And does that make Jews above criticism? Right? Why should bros be above criticism when it's like we point them out and say like, yo, you're writing this weird child porn abstract stuff in the ways like Peter Sotos does today? I don't know. It's this weird thing. Some people guard. It's like Allen Ginsberg, right? He wrote about his sphincter muscle, right? His ass sphincter, and how and that won like a peace prize.
Wait, who?
Allen Ginsberg. He had a book of poetry.
Oh yeah, he was. Even his closest friends kind of said the guy was kind of an asshole.
Well, pun, no pun. It sounds like a pun on words, but I mean, yeah, the Beatniks were really strange. I know Jack Kerouac is the most like stuff white people like thing ever. I don't even read Kerouac, but his whole on the road cut up style is just so like boring. I mean, I love Burroughs more. I would be more of the Burroughs type of understanding that kind of. But the Beatniks, I know Rabbit of Alt Left loves the Beatniks a lot, but there's a huge amount of Beatnik history. But I'm not into that whole Beatnik. I don't know much about it really, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I like Kerouac. He was an interesting fellow. I mean, he liked McCarthy and he smoked weed. He was an intense alcoholic.
Yeah, those are true things about him. I mean,
And he was a bisexual.
yeah, that too. He seems to be the
Wait,
only.
what?
That's what I think about
Uh,
Kerouac is he seems to be the most forgivable out of the trio of beatniks, as Kerouac is the most digestible to any sweeple, stuff white people like person, as he seems to be the most conservative and handsome looking compared to Ginsberg and Burroughs being, too much. But yeah, whatchamacallit.
hey,
It,
what's your sexuality?
what's my sexuality? I always talk this with Robert. And I think people's sexuality is really different. I mean, have you ever used a Baru engine before? A Baru engine? B O
Oh,
O
what's
R
that?
Booru. It's basically a hang tie search engine, and you can find any erotic picture you want. This could be from like you search tags, so I'll be like dark underscore skin, beach, cum string, whatever naughty stuff you want to look up. And if you want to find the perfect guy, you just look up your fictional idol. And going on sexuality lies, if you're into something, you can do that. I mean, I'm gonna joke, and I guess with the whole Asian Aryan thing, you could say I'm an Asian sexual and have a good preference to Asian women. I mean, that just makes me hetero, obviously. I mean, not that like I'm bi or something, but I do flirt with the ideal of like handsome, yowie guys. I mean, certainly it is interesting to talk about men. It's just because you talk about guys, it honestly automatically makes you gay. So it's like the whole thinking process, right? And if I say I'm an Asian sexual, right, that means you're biased and you have a fetish, right? And the fetish means you have an abnormal sense, right? There's nothing abnormal with having preferences. I don't think any coconut has fell on my head to make me think that I prefer one thing over and over again. Because really, I'm pretty much the most laid back person ever, and I can love anyone. But I am proud to discriminate and will discriminate a certain woman because I know the same results will come from a typical woman of a certain creed. It's why the whole men going their own way are going to discriminate more to white. They don't like white women. It's because white women are basically the harbingers of feminism, and you just can't talk to them. And I think Asian women are a safe haven away from that, and that's something I've always been arguing. And so, yeah.
Oh yeah, I went to a comic convention last year. It was pretty great. I met Ed Fisker, the Hernandez brothers, and I also met Peter Bang. Got my book signed by all of them.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I went to a couple of gaming conventions. They're interesting, but I never went to a comic convention. There's a lot you can that's pretty cool.
Oh man, it was great. I saw like this hot girl dressed up like Wonder Woman. She had like some nice legs. Wish I could have talked to her. I probably could have got laid that day.
Yeah, if you know your game, what the Roosh V crowd says. I'm not a fan of the whole game or the Roosh V. I don't know. Do you like game at all? Do you know about it?
You talking about the whole
Manosphere.
MGTOW thing?
Yeah, the Manosphere game, like alpha, beta, delta, like how to score women, what you do, what you not do. I'm not a fan of it, and
Look, let me just say this. The thing I have with that is that they make all the MGTOW crowd, not all of them, but at least some of them make it look like they give anti-feminists a bad name. Like they make it
mhm,
seem like all we are a bunch of guys who view women as meat and nothing else.
yeah,
And look, I'm not a liberal guy. It's not like I'm trying to defend Gloria Steinem or anything like that. I'm just saying, women have bodies too. They have minds too. It's like they're more than just things to have sex with. They're human beings with feelings and emotions just like everybody else.
oh yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying too. I mean, I think men going their way is too radical, as if they take radical feminism, but they call it radical meninism, right? It's radical men who ultimately equally hate all types of women. It's to a crazy point where it's like, okay, then how are you going to reproduce? Are you guys just a bunch of closet gays that won't like women? I really don't understand but I can understand though the men going their own way, their criticism towards white women. I totally understand that. However, I don't think it's necessary to just mark off all women, and I think there is redemption and repenting of sins. And my answer for any disgruntled man that doesn't like white women and the whole feminist thing is basically go find yourself a nice Asian woman. Or like you said, Hispanic is simply because they are better options and they have their standards together, unlike white women today. And you're gonna have better chances if you make that choice and discriminate. I mean, I am all for discrimination. Discriminate and find your own happiness.
Oh yeah. What do you think about the Loud House? The new cartoon. Because I got in my head, it's like I'm
Oh,
surprised not a lot of people on the alt right or alt left are talking about this show. It's basically about
that's
a white family with like a bunch of kids.
that's funny you say that. The Loud House is always on Nickelodeon, and I think that's really funny because it's a white family. There's only one black kid in there, and the black kid basically likes the older white sister, and the black kid's basically an Oreo. He's basically white on the inside and black on the outside. But it's
With
mainly a
two
white
gay
show.
parents for some weird reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's mainly a white show. The whole Loud House, and it's basically they all have what L names, right? It's like Lincoln, Luna. uh, I don't know what their old L names are, but it seems like I now have a neighbor, right, that names those daughters Madison, Morgan, Maggie. Like it's this weird white people thing too. I mean, it also has that Sunday comic, family circus nature to it too. The Loud House. I can definitely see like why isn't the alt right like on some website like on the right stuff biz talking, hey, this is a wholesome white family show. I think you're white, and that's what I felt there was a suspicious nature to the Loud. I know what you're saying. The Loud House does has a very suspicious nature that could be considered alt right. But yeah,
Yeah, that's funny. You know what else? I wanted to talk to you. What do you think would be? What do you think is like the perfect alt left TV show? Because I got like another number of shows in my head. When I come to my mind, I think they're kind of alt right. Like
I don't. I
Married
wouldn't
with
know that.
Children has kind of like this vibe of being alt right.
I mean, Rabbit has the whole like space age alt left thing going on, so he would be give really good answers. But if you give me my opinion, I can only tell you Asian Aryan shows like the mirror. Like I'll tell you an Asian Aryan show. There's this kid show by Gwen Stefani called Juku or something weird. There's that weird CGI show, Miracle and Lady Cat, Buppy,
You mean
whatever.
Miraculous Ladybug?
Yeah, that's an Asian Aryan show simply because it's the synergy between the that Harajuku whatever by Gwen Stefani. I can name you a list of Asian Aryan shows. I would even say maybe Steven Universe in slight effect. It's just the Asian Aryanism is pretty much out there and more relevant at the current moment.
Or what do you think about The Legend of Korra?
Yeah, those are also Asian Aryan shows. Avatar, I mean, they definitely have a certain aesthetic to it that like tells young white kids that Asian society is grand. And, I think that power needs to be harnessed to basically, synergize the two, right? Not be it all white or be it all Asian. I have this silly picture on my picture files. I save a bunch of funny pictures, and this one picture states, "Oh, Avatar is whitewashed." I'm like, no shit, it is, and it doesn't mean that it's bad because it's white. It just means it's Asian Aryan. It's like, duh. And I don't know. I think Avatar could be a show that could tell young kid. It's just another way of whites trying to find this settle the score in between the two. But yeah, for alt left shows, I wouldn't really know. It has to be further defined. The alt left.
What about My Life as a Teenage Robot?
Yeah, I love ML. I love that show, and I love Alex Kerwin. I love Robert Zenny. I love Fiona Hong. I love this whole West Coast, that Bauhaus, future tech, futurists. Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
wonder, have you ever seen Symbionic Titan?
I love Symbionic Titan. Yeah, that could be Asian Aryan too. If you use your, I mean, it's a little Western, but still, I mean, the Gundam, the Dune, the Samurai
The
Jack
hot
influence.
redhead girl, Jimmy. She was
Yeah,
hot.
yeah, and the whole butt shaking joke they had with Alien Death Hammer in it. Oh, I forget the
I'm
jokes.
surprised they were able to get that past censorship.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it only lasts a season, but still, Symbionic Titan had a very, I could say that I could pass that as Asian Aryan. I could definitely see there's some kind of but yeah. I mean, like I could see some total energy going on in that show. That's definitely unique, and it did have a huge following. It's too bad it only had one season. Could have had more.
Yeah, we should start our own band. I was listening to Frank Zappa. And I was listening to a song by Frank Zappa called "The Duke of Prunes," and I was thinking in my head, I could start an avant-garde band with Pilleater.
I would
We
love to.
could call the band
I have.
Market Anarchist.
I have. Do you make music on the computer?
Crap, I'm not. I don't really have. I only have like this broken down phone that I have by my mom. It
Uh,
has internet on it, but its
okay.
capabilities kind of suck.
Okay, yeah, I run everything on my MacBook, and I got Reason 9, and I make electronic music through that. And like, if you had like Reason 9 or one of those DAW programs, switch sound files to each other, you could sing on that. I could do that. It's fun music creation once you have this whole. Just today, you need like a computer to do like everything's electronic based. I mean, people think of music in live terms when really music is all like synthesizers and drum machines, and you got to know how to do that stuff. And I love it. I love like
Yeah.
making
Hey,
old school house. Yeah.
have you seen Togo's video Trump Popular, which is basically just a music video of Donald Trump.
I think so.
It's pretty funny. It's got good music.
I think I've seen that. There's many of those. Maybe one with Pepe Trump, but yeah. Um, I actually found the Avatar whitewashed picture, and it's a picture. I don't know. I might want to put this on my as the YouTube picture, but it says Avatar whitewashed. I'm tired of people defending the whitewashing that happens in the fandom. It's racist. End of story. IDGAF. If someone's funky little drawings were criticized or even recolored to be more accurate, it's disgusting how people care more about the feelings of whitewashers than those of people who are hurt by it. Because whitewashing hurts you fools. And newsflash, when a character is whitewashed in fan art, it was already changed from what is official. Shut the fuck up, white supremacists. I don't know, I just think this is the most autistic picture ever, and that's why it's saved in my file. I'm like, but Avatar is already a whitewash show, and like Avatar is already made up by white people for white. And it's like these guys are missing. Same with the Happa board. They're missing the Asian Aryan link, where it's like, yeah, they're okay being white, and so, duh, I don't know.
Hey, what do you look like?
You know, I told this to Alex and Robert before. I'm gonna say it again. Imagine Mike Shinado from Linkin Park, but he's a little more smaller and he looks more Eurasian, and he's got, well, I have a beard right now, I'll shave it, but a little Mike Shinado. That's pretty much what I would say.
I always thought you were like some tall redhead because you said you were Irish in one podcast.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, there's that from my dad's side, but like I said, there's that weird, exotic look to me once you see me, and it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know. If you're on Skype, I could cam for a bit and show you I'm a real person. But yeah, I mean, I don't know really how to really. I don't mean to be narcissistic, but yeah.
Look, since I'm your friend, I would like to ask you, like, what's your favorite hobbies, or what kind of food do you like to eat?
You asked me this before. I could say like sushi, and I could say a tempura food, and I could say like dumplings and like Chinese, and I'm all into that. But if you want something really Western, I love my grapes, cheese, wine, and crackers. Well, little wine. I don't drink alcohol, but this really nice for Western food like that. I think it's like a corny answer. I mean, I love my cheese. I could tell you all about cheeses. I mean, I'll get from German Tilset to English Cheshire. I'm a cheese aficionado when it comes to. It seems to be a very classist thing, but yeah, cheese is delicate, especially if you have those with water crackers at the right temperature. I don't know. Yeah, food can be really interesting.
Oh, well, me, I kind of like Western food, like cheeseburgers, pizza, Philly cheesesteaks, gyros.
Oh yeah, cheesesteaks. Well, you get that a lot in Philadelphia. Yeah, cheesesteaks, it's everywhere. We're reaching the hour right now. Is there anything else you want to say before I end the conversation?
Yeah. Did you ever read like alternative comic books when you were a kid?
Yes.
Because I read like Sandman and Animal Man and the Hernandez brothers.
Yeah.
Love and Rockets is like the greatest comic book ever.
From other mangas that you're kind of forced to read in Asian studies class, or I've read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I love Ghost World by Daniel Clowes. I love Jim Woodring, the Frank series. Anything by Tezuka. I love the Tezuka. I love. Like I said, I have juxtaposed magazines everywhere. I'm just looking at a whole bookshelf from years ago. I used to subscribe to that when I was like 15. I love the whole. I recently, what I'm reading right now is Tomine's series Optic Nerve, and I'm really enjoying Baby in Black, which is a story about the Beatles. I have my favorite comics. Graphic novels are very interesting, though I'll call them what there is, comics. So yeah, I'll make some YouTubes in the future about comic books. Certainly, they do have huge power. But yeah,
you should make one about Robert Crumb.
Oh yeah, I've read some Robert Crumb comics before. He's from Philadelphia, which is so odd. I mean, feel his cat series and the Ralph movies are interesting. Though I never he is interesting, Robert Crumb, but I never really was into him. Once again, I think my surrogate would be Jim Woodring. I think he would be a better artist on that. But it's nice talking
Oh,
to you. What's that?
just want to find a question. What would you do if you were like the president?
I'd be the president. Um, I would probably, I would probably be really boring. I'd probably be like a Democrat. I'd probably be on my Twitter, President of the United States, proud husband, no, father, husband, and I have three daughters. I would be a nice looking guy with a shaved, and I would pretty much do normative things and give good speeches and have wholesome values. And if you're asking that, I would probably make the world Asianarian. Maybe I would secretly push ideals for okay intermarriage between whites and Asians. Yeah, I'll cynically do that. I would make that offer. But if you're giving me the presidential position right now, I'd be no different from Jimmy Carter. Maybe an Asian
Really?
version.
But he's stuck.
I know. I'm saying like I'm that like that's what I'm saying. I'm not fuddy duddy. I'll be like an Asian Jimmy Carter. But I'm gonna end the conversation here. Nice talking to you, Adventure Kid.
God bless you, man.
God bless. Talk to you later. Bye.